I found my dead best friend's wedding invitation in my boyfriend's apartment. Turns out, I never knew either of them at all. I need to tell someone about this because I genuinely don't know if I'm losing my mind or if my entire life for the past 3 years has been an elaborate lie. I'm shaking as I write this. My therapist says I should process my feelings, but honestly, I think I need internet strangers to tell me I'm not crazy more than I need another breathing exercise. So here's the thing. 2 weeks ago, I found a wedding invitation in my boyfriend Marcus's apartment. Hidden in a box in his closet behind his winter coats. And that invitation? It was addressed to my best friend Jen. My best friend Jen who died 4 years ago. But let me back up because this gets so much worse. I met Marcus 3 years ago at a coffee shop in Portland. One of those aggressively hipster places where they serve pour-over coffee in beakers and everyone's typing their screenplay. I was there trying to work on my graphic design portfolio, stress eating a blueberry muffin, when this guy sat down at the table next to mine with the exact same laptop sticker I had. This obscure indie game called Celeste. Nice taste, he said, nodding at my laptop. I looked up and I swear to God, it was like something out of a movie. He had these warm brown eyes and this slightly crooked smile, wearing a faded band t-shirt for a group I'd literally just been listening to. We got to talking, and 4 hours later we were still there, our coffees long cold, laughing about everything and nothing. He told me he was a software developer who'd just moved to Portland from Sacramento for work. I told him about my job at a small design agency, about how I was still finding my footing after moving here 2 years prior. We talked about music, about games, about this amazing Thai place he'd discovered the week before. It felt easy, natural, like we'd known each other forever. This is going to sound crazy, he said as the coffee shop was closing, but I feel like I already know you. I remember laughing, feeling my cheeks get warm. That's definitely a line. It's a terrible line, he agreed, grinning. But it's also true. We exchanged numbers. He texted me before I even got home. So, that Thai place tomorrow? That was 3 years ago. And they've been, honestly, the best 3 years of my life. After Jen died, I didn't think I'd ever feel whole again. Marcus changed that. He was patient with my grief, held me through panic attacks, never pressured me to move on, or get over it. When I'd wake up crying after dreaming about her, he'd make me tea and sit with me until sunrise, just being there. He moved into my apartment 6 months ago. We'd been talking about getting a dog. About maybe moving to a bigger place next year. About maybe getting engaged, in that careful way people talk about the future when they're both thinking it but scared to say it out loud. I thought I knew him. I thought we knew each other. Then I found that fucking invitation. Here's what happened. Marcus was out of town for a work conference. He'd asked me to grab his good charger from his apartment. We'd been slowly consolidating our stuff, but he still had his place for another 2 months on the lease. I had a key. It was completely normal for me to be there. I couldn't find the charger in any of the obvious places, so I checked his closet, thinking maybe it was in a bag or something. That's when I knocked over a box on the top shelf. It wasn't sealed or anything, just an old moving box that clearly hadn't been unpacked. Stuff spilled everywhere. Most of it was random. Old textbooks from college, some gaming magazines from 2015, a broken external hard drive. But then I saw the envelope. Cream-colored, expensive-looking cardstock. Addressed in that fancy calligraphy style to Ms. Jennifer Hartley, 2847 Northeast Broadway Street, Apt 7. Portland, Oregon, 97232. That was Jen's address. Her old address, the apartment she lived in until she died. My hands went numb. I sat down on the floor, right there in Marcus's closet, and just stared at it. The invitation was for a wedding. Marcus Chen and Rebecca Winters. October 14, 2020. 4 years ago, just 2 months before Jen died. Marcus Chen. My Marcus had a different last name now, Marcus Reed. But Chen, that was his middle name. I knew that, but why would he? I opened the invitation with shaking hands. Inside was the standard wedding invitation stuff. Ceremony at 4 p.m., reception to follow, dinner and dancing. But there was also a handwritten note on a separate card, in scratchy masculine handwriting. Jen, I know this is weird after everything, but it would mean the world to both of us if you could come. Beck really wants to meet you. We both want you there. Please say you'll come. I sat there for probably 20 minutes, just breathing, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Marcus knew Jen. And not just knew her well enough to invite her to his wedding. A wedding that apparently didn't happen, or did happen, or what? Who was Rebecca Winters? Was Marcus married? Had he been married? My mind was racing. Marcus told me he'd never been engaged, never been married. We'd had the whole relationship history talk early on, like adults do. He said he'd had a few serious girlfriends but nothing that led to marriage. He said he'd moved to Portland for a fresh start after a bad breakup in Sacramento. Was that breakup with Rebecca Winters? And how did Jen fit into all of this? I need to tell you about Jen because none of this makes sense without understanding what she meant to me. Jennifer Hartley was my person. We met freshman year of college at University of Oregon, randomly assigned as roommates. She was this whirlwind of energy, bright red hair, always wearing mismatched socks, laughing at her own jokes before she even got to the punchline. She was studying environmental science and was passionate about everything. Everything. She'd get worked up about the ethics of palm oil or the latest climate report or why everyone needed to watch this obscure documentary about bees. She was exhausting and wonderful and I loved her immediately. We were inseparable through college. After graduation, we both moved to Portland. She got a job with an environmental nonprofit. I started freelancing in design. We lived in apartments 3 blocks from each other. We had standing Tuesday night dinners where we'd try new restaurants. She was the first person I called with any news, good or bad. She knew all my passwords and I knew hers. We were planning to be in each other's weddings someday, to be aunts to each other's kids, to grow old together in a Golden Girls situation. And then December 18, 2020, she was driving home from a late meeting and a drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. The police said she didn't suffer, like that was supposed to help. I fell apart. Completely fell apart. I couldn't work, couldn't eat, couldn't function. Her parents, who lived in Seattle and who I'd always been close with, planned the funeral. I gave a eulogy I barely remember delivering. I packed up her apartment because her parents couldn't bear to do it. I found her journals, her photos, her collection of terrible magnets from every place she'd ever visited. I kept a few things, her favorite hoodie, a book of poetry she loved, a stuffed whale we'd bought on a trip to the coast. For a year, I barely existed. And then I met Marcus, and slowly, I started to feel human again. Jen never mentioned a Marcus. Not once. Not in 3 years of being best friends in college, not in the 2 years we lived in Portland together before she died. She dated, there was Daniel in junior year, and then Aaron for most of our time in Portland, a sweet guy who worked in tech and who was also devastated when she died. But Marcus? Never heard the name. And Marcus never mentioned Jen. In 3 years together, through all my stories about her, all my grief, all my memories, he never once said, "Oh, I knew a Jennifer," or, "That name sounds familiar," or anything. He let me cry about losing my best friend and never mentioned he'd invited her to his wedding. I took a photo of the invitation with my phone. Then I carefully put everything back in the box, back in the closet, exactly how I'd found it. I don't even know why I did that. Some instinct to not let him know I knew? To gather evidence? To pretend for a little longer that my life made sense? I went home. I didn't tell Marcus I'd found it. When he called that night from his conference, I lied. I said everything was fine, I'd found the charger, I hadn't, I'd stopped looking, I missed him, I'd see him in 2 days. Then I did what any rational person would do. I became a detective. First, I looked up Rebecca Winters. There were dozens on social media, but none that seemed to be connected to Marcus. I tried Rebecca Chen, and Rebecca Reed, too. Nothing obvious. I looked for wedding announcements, marriage licenses, anything. I couldn't find a record of Marcus marrying anyone. Then I went through my photos of Jen. I have thousands of them. We were always taking pictures. I looked at every single photo from 2020, before she died. Looking for Marcus's face in the background, looking for any clue that they knew each other. Nothing. Not one photo, not one mention in any caption, not one hint. I went to Jen's parents' house. I told them I was going through some old memories and had questions. They were sweet about it, like always. They become sort of surrogate parents to me after Jen died, checking in every few weeks, inviting me to holidays. I asked if Jen had ever mentioned a Marcus Chen or a Marcus Reed. Her mom, Susan, thought about it. Not that I remember, honey. Why do you ask? I lied and said I'd found the name in an old note and was curious. Susan said Jen had a lot of friends from her nonprofit work and her college days, but she didn't recall that specific name. She did mention that Jen had seemed distracted the last few months before she died, like something was on her mind, but Jen had brushed it off as work stress. You know how she was, Susan said, smiling sadly. She felt everything so deeply. The state of the world weighed on her. That was true, but now I wondered if there was something else. When Marcus came back from his conference, I watched him. Really watched him. He kissed me hello, asked about my week, made us dinner. His specialty, this Thai basil chicken that I loved. He was normal, exactly himself. Warm, attentive, funny. He told me stories from the conference, complained about the hotel mattress, showed me a photo of an incredibly ugly abstract sculpture in the lobby. We watched a movie curled up on the couch. He fell asleep with his head on my shoulder, like he always did. And I sat there, staring at the TV, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. How do you ask someone, hey, why did you invite my dead best friend to your secret wedding? How do you even start that conversation? I decided to test the waters. You know what I was thinking about today? I said the next morning over coffee. Jen. Marcus looked up from his phone. Yeah? What about her? I realized there's probably people she knew that I never met. Like, her life was bigger than just what I saw, you know? I tried to keep my voice casual. It made me wonder who else was in her orbit that I didn't know about. Marcus nodded slowly. That's really insightful, actually. People are never just one thing, right? We all have different versions of ourselves we show to different people. Exactly, I said. My heart was pounding. Like, did you ever have that experience? Where you found out someone you knew had this whole other life you didn't know about? He thought about it. Sure, I guess. In college, I found out my roommate was in a secret poker group that apparently half the campus knew about except me. Felt weird to realize there was this whole thing happening parallel to my life. He took a sip of coffee. Why? Did you find out something about Jen? This was it. This was my opening. I could tell him. I could say, funny you mention it. I found a wedding invitation you sent her. Instead I said, no, just thinking. I chickened out. Because here's the thing. I was terrified. Terrified that if I asked, he'd confirm that everything I thought I knew was wrong. Terrified that there was some explanation that would somehow be worse than not knowing. Terrified that pushing this would break us. But also, part of me was starting to get angry. He had chances, so many chances, to tell me he knew her. And he didn't. I decided to do more digging. I filed a records request for marriage licenses in Portland under both Marcus Chen and Marcus Reed for 2020. It would take a few weeks, but I needed to know if he'd actually gotten married. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Marcus's laptop while he was in the shower. I know. It's a violation of privacy, it's a violation of trust, it's all the things. But at that point, I felt like he'd already violated my trust by lying for 3 years about knowing Jen, so fuck it, you know? His laptop wasn't password protected for me. We'd always had an open device policy. I'd used it before to check my email or watch something when my laptop was dead. This felt different though. This felt like snooping. I opened his photo library. Thousands of photos, organized by date. I scrolled back to 2020. And I found them. Photos of Marcus with a woman. A beautiful woman with long dark hair and an infectious smile. In some photos they were hiking, in others at restaurants, at what looked like a vineyard, at the beach. They looked happy. In love. This had to be Rebecca Winters. There were photos from what was clearly a wedding, but not a big one. Just them, signing papers at what looked like the courthouse, with a few people around them. She was wearing a simple white dress. He was in a navy suit. They looked so young, so happy. The dates on the photos ranged from 2018 to late 2020. The last photo was dated October 31, 2020. Just 2 weeks after the wedding date on the invitation. In it, Rebecca was in a hospital bed, looking pale and thin, but smiling. Marcus was next to her, holding her hand. The caption was just a heart emoji. I felt sick. I kept scrolling. November 2020. Fewer photos, mostly of places, not people. A rainy street. A coffee shop. An empty beach. They felt lonely, sad. December 2020. Nothing until late in the month. A photo dated December 22, 4 days after Jen died, of a sunset. The caption. I don't know how to do this. Then January 2021. A photo dated January 15th. Of a pamphlet for a grief support group. And then February 2021. The first photo of Marcus in months. A selfie, him with a weak smile, with a caption, first day trying. One step. March 2021. A photo dated March 8th. Marcus at that coffee shop. The same coffee shop where we met. The caption. New beginnings, maybe. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Rebecca had died. That's why there was no record of Marcus being married, because she died shortly after the wedding. And Marcus had been grieving. Was still grieving when he met me. But that didn't explain Jen. That didn't explain why he invited her to the wedding, or why he never mentioned knowing her, or what, after everything, meant in his note to her. Edit 1. Okay, so I wrote all that and posted it 2 days ago and the response has been overwhelming. Some of you are telling me to just ask him. Some of you think he's a serial killer. Please. He's not a serial killer. And some of you have theories I haven't even considered. Someone DM'd me asking if I thought Marcus and Jen were secretly half-siblings. I don't think so. Would her parents not know? But here's the thing. I couldn't just let it sit. After finding those photos, after seeing Rebecca, I spiraled. I called in sick to work. I couldn't sleep. I kept trying to find connections between Jen and Marcus on social media, in old emails, anywhere. Then yesterday, I made a decision. I went back to Jen's parents' house with my laptop. I showed Susan the photos of Rebecca. Do you recognize this woman? I asked. Susan looked at the photos, confused. No, I don't think so. Who is she? Her name is Rebecca Winters. I think she died around the same time as Jen. Susan's face went white. Rebecca Winters? Wait, how do you know that name? My stomach dropped. You do know her? Susan sat down heavily on the couch. Oh my God, I haven't thought about. Honey, we should talk. Turns out, Rebecca Winters went to UO the same time as Jen and me. But she was 2 years ahead of us, so we never crossed paths. After college, Rebecca moved to Sacramento for work. She and Jen weren't close friends, but they'd stayed in touch through environmental advocacy circles. Apparently Rebecca also worked in the nonprofit world. Why didn't you mention her before? I asked. Susan looked uncomfortable. Because, well, it felt like such a strange coincidence at the time, and we were already dealing with so much grief. Rebecca died just a few weeks after Jen. Different circumstances, she had cancer, I think, but still. 2 young women from the same school, gone within weeks of each other. Jen's father and I went to Rebecca's memorial service because Jen had mentioned her a few times over the years. We thought we should pay our respects. And her husband? I asked, my heart racing. Did you meet him? Briefly, Susan said. Nice young man. Completely devastated, as you'd imagine. I think his name was Marcus? Yes, Marcus. Why? I felt the room spin. Marcus is my boyfriend. Susan's eyes widened. You're Marcus? The one you brought to Thanksgiving last year? The same. We sat in silence for a moment. Did Jen ever mention him? I asked finally. Susan frowned, thinking. Wait. Oh no. What? Honey, I think Jen might have introduced them. This is where it gets complicated, so stay with me. According to Susan, about a year before she died, Jen had mentioned a guy named Marcus who'd been emailing with Rebecca about some environmental project. Jen thought they'd be good together and had set them up on a blind date. Susan said Jen was really proud of herself for being Cupid, and had been excited when she heard they hit it off. She showed me a photo of them at some point, Susan said, scrolling through her phone. I think I still have it. Yes, here. She showed me her phone. It was a screenshot of a text conversation with Jen, dated August 2019. Jen had written, "Look at the happy couple I created," followed by a photo. The photo was Marcus and Rebecca, early in their relationship, sitting at an outdoor cafe, laughing. They looked so young and carefree. I zoomed in on the photo. Behind them, in the background, was another table. And sitting at that table, partially obscured but definitely visible, was a younger version of me. I showed Susan. "That's me." "What?" "That's me. I'm in the background of this photo. I recognize that cafe, it's the one by my old apartment. And those sunglasses, I had those in 2019. We stared at each other. So you and Marcus were in the same place? Before you officially met?" "I guess so," I said slowly. "Portland's not that big, especially certain neighborhoods. I probably walked past him dozens of times. But I never noticed him, and he never noticed me. We were just background characters in each other's lives." But that made something else click into place. "Susan, when did Rebecca get sick?" "I think early 2020. The cancer was very aggressive." October 2020 wedding. Rebecca in the hospital on October 31st straight. Dead by November, probably. "They got married because she was dying," I said. "He married her knowing he was going to lose her." Susan nodded, her eyes sad. "I imagine so. I thought about Marcus, about meeting him in February 2021. About him saying he'd moved to Portland for a fresh start after a bad breakup. He wasn't lying, not technically. But it wasn't just a breakup. It was death. It was grief. Why didn't he tell me he knew Jen?" I asked, more to myself than Susan. Why hide that? Susan didn't have an answer. That night, I finally confronted Marcus. He came home from work, and I was sitting on the couch with the wedding invitation on the coffee table. "We need to talk," I said. He saw the invitation and stopped dead. All the color drained from his face. "Babe, I can explain. You invited my best friend to your wedding. A wedding you never told me about, to a woman you never mentioned, using a name you don't go by anymore. And you've known all of this for 3 years. So yes, Marcus, please explain. Because right now I don't know who you are." He sat down slowly, not taking his eyes off the invitation. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. "Her name was Rebecca," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We met in 2018. Jen set us up. She knew Rebecca from environmental advocacy stuff and knew I was single after moving to Sacramento. Jen thought we'd be perfect together, and God, we were. Rebecca was. She was everything. We got engaged in 2019. Started planning a wedding for 2021. He took a shaky breath. Then in March 2020, Rebecca started feeling off. Tired all the time, losing weight. We thought it was stress from work, maybe the pandemic lockdowns getting to her. By June, she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Metastatic. They gave her 6 months, maybe less. I felt tears streaming down my face, but I stayed quiet. She wanted to get married before she died, Marcus continued. So we did. October 14th, just us and immediate family and a few close friends. We invited Jen because she's the reason we met. Rebecca wanted her there. She couldn't travel by then, but she wanted Jen there so badly. Did Jen come? I asked. Marcus shook his head. She RSVP'd no. Sent a nice message saying she couldn't make it but sent her love. I was disappointed, but I understood. October 2020, pandemic, people were being careful. Rebecca was disappointed too, but she got it. Rebecca died November 15th, he said. 6 weeks after the wedding. It was fast. So fast. One day she was talking about bucket list things she wanted to do. The next she couldn't get out of bed, and then she was gone. He finally looked at me. I fell apart. Completely. Didn't leave the apartment for weeks. Stopped eating, stopped showering, stopped being a person. My job let me take indefinite leave. My sister flew in from Chicago and basically forced me back to life. Therapy, grief groups, the works. Why Marcus Reed instead of Marcus Chen? I asked. Reed was Rebecca's maiden name, he said quietly. After she died, I legally changed my last name to honor her. I know it's weird, usually it's the woman who takes the man's name, but I wanted to carry part of her with me. My family was confused, but they supported it. It helped me feel like she wasn't completely gone. Okay. This all tracked. It was tragic and heartbreaking and explained so much. But, why didn't you tell me? I asked. When we met, when I told you about Jen, when you heard her name, why didn't you say, I knew her, she introduced me to my late wife? Why hide it? Marcus looked at his hands. Because I thought you'd think I was crazy. What? Babe, think about it from my perspective, he said, his voice cracking. I meet you in February 2021. I'm barely functional, trying to claw my way back to normal after Rebecca died. And you seem nice and we hit it off, and then you mention your best friend Jen died recently, and I'm thinking, oh, we have grief in common, maybe we can help each other. He paused, and then you tell me her last name. Hartley, and I'm thinking, wait, that sounds familiar. So I ask what she looked like, and you describe her, and I realize, oh my God, it's the same Jen. The Jen who set me up with Rebecca. The Jen who didn't come to the wedding. And I'm thinking, if I tell you that, what are you going to think? That it's fate? That the universe brought us together? That we're supposed to be together because we both knew Jen? That's insane. That's rom-com nonsense. And I didn't want you to be with me because of some cosmic coincidence. I wanted you to be with me because you actually liked me. He looked at me with desperate eyes. And then time passed, and it felt too late to bring it up. Like, how'd I say 6 months in, oh by the way, I knew your dead best friend. A year in? 2 years? It felt like the longer I waited, the worse it would be when you found out. So I just didn't tell you. I convinced myself it didn't matter. That it was in the past. But it does matter, I said. Marcus, that's a huge thing to hide. I know, he said miserably. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We sat in silence. There's something else, I said quietly. In your note to Jen, you wrote, I know this is weird after everything. What did you mean by that? Marcus looked confused. What? I pointed to the handwritten note in the invitation. You wrote, after everything. What was the everything? He picked up the note, read it, and frowned. I just meant after we hadn't seen her in a while. Like, after everything that happened with the pandemic and Rebecca getting sick. Why? It sounds like there was drama, I said. Like something happened between you and Jen. No, Marcus said slowly. Nothing happened. Jen was great. She was excited for us when Rebecca and I got together. She'd check in occasionally, send funny memes to Rebecca when she was sick. There was no drama. But something about his expression made me pause. What aren't you telling me? Nothing, He trailed off, thinking. Okay, there was one thing that was a little weird. When we invited Jen to the wedding, she asked if she could bring a +1. Someone she'd just started seeing, she said. But when she RSVP'd no, she mentioned that things hadn't worked out with the guy and that's part of why she wasn't coming. She didn't want to come alone and be sad about her new relationship ending while watching us celebrate ours. My blood went cold. When was this? The RSVP came in late September, I think. Jen was dating Aaron in September 2020, I said. They'd been together for over a year at that point. Why would she say she'd just started seeing someone? Marcus looked as confused as I felt. I don't know. Maybe they'd broken up briefly? Or maybe it was someone else, not Aaron. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my texts with Jen from 2020. There. September 28, 2020. Me. Girls' night this week? I need Thai food and gossip. Jen. Yes please. I have so much to tell you. Things with Aaron are so good right now. Like scary good. I think he might be it, you know? Me. OMG, are you saying what I think you're saying? Jen. Not engaged yet, but I can feel it coming. Is it crazy that I'm already thinking about asking you to be my maid of honor? Me. Not crazy at all. I'm crying. Happy tears. You guys are perfect together. I showed Marcus the texts. This was the same week she RSVP'd to your wedding. She wasn't breaking up with Aaron. She was thinking about getting engaged to him. We looked at each other. So who was the plus one? Marcus asked. Edit 2. Holy shit, you guys. Holy shit. So after that conversation with Marcus, I couldn't let it go. Who was Jen planning to bring to the wedding? Why would she lie about just starting to see someone when she was deeply in love with Aaron? I called Aaron. We'd stayed friendly after Jen died, not close, but we'd check in on each other on her birthday, on the anniversary of her death, that kind of thing. He'd since moved to Seattle and gotten engaged to someone else, which made me happy for him. Hey, I said when he picked up. Random question, but do you remember in October 2020, did Jen mention anything about a wedding she was invited to? There was a pause. Rebecca's wedding? My heart stopped. You knew about it? Yeah, Aaron said. Jen was conflicted about whether to go. She felt obligated because she'd set them up, but she was also. I don't know, it was complicated. Complicated how? Another pause, longer this time. Listen, I don't know if I should be telling you this. It feels like speaking ill of the dead. Aaron, please. It's important. He sighed. Jen was. Okay, don't take this the wrong way, but Jen was a little hung up on the guy. Marcus. She'd set him up with Rebecca because she genuinely thought they'd be great together, and they were. But I think part of Jen was hoping Marcus would maybe be interested in her instead. Like, she introduced them, but secretly wanted him to choose her. I felt like I'd been punched. What? She never acted on it, Aaron said quickly. She never said anything to Marcus or tried to break them up or anything. She told me once, when she'd had a lot of wine, that she thought maybe she'd made a mistake introducing them. That maybe she should have asked Marcus out herself first. But then Rebecca got sick, and Jen felt terrible for even thinking that way. She said she was a horrible person for being jealous when Rebecca was literally dying. Oh God. Oh God. Did she tell you who she wanted to bring as a plus one? I asked. Yeah, Aaron said. Me. She asked if I'd come with her, and I said no. Why? Because it felt weird, Aaron said. She kept saying she needed moral support, but it seemed like more than that. Like she wanted to bring me as proof that she'd moved on and was happy, you know? To show Marcus she was fine and had someone too. It felt like using me to make a statement, and I wasn't comfortable with that. We fought about it, actually. She got really upset, said I didn't understand, said I was being unsupportive. We didn't talk for like a week. But in the texts from late September, she said things with you were great, I said. They were, by then, Aaron said. We made up. She apologized, said she'd been weird about the wedding because it was bringing up old feelings she thought she'd dealt with. She RSVP'd no to the wedding and said she felt relieved. We moved past it. I thanked Aaron and hung up. So Jen had feelings for Marcus. Jen introduced Marcus to Rebecca while harboring secret feelings for him. Jen watched them fall in love, get engaged, and then watched Rebecca get sick and die. And through all of that, she never said anything. And then 2 months later, Jen died too. And then 3 months after that, Marcus met me. Me, Jen's best friend. The person who knew everything about Jen except, apparently, that she'd been in love with a guy named Marcus. I told Marcus all of this. He looked shell-shocked. I had no idea, he said. I swear to God, I had no idea she felt that way. She never indicated, we were just friends. Friendly. I barely knew her, honestly. She introduced me to Rebecca and then we'd see her occasionally at events, but it wasn't like we hung out one-on-one or anything. Did Rebecca know? I asked. Marcus thought about it. I don't, maybe? Rebecca did mention once that she felt bad that Jen seemed lonely. But she never said anything about Jen having feelings for me. We sat there, trying to piece together what this all meant. Do you think? I started, then stopped. Do you think the universe brought us together because of Jen? Marcus laughed bitterly. I specifically avoided telling you I knew her because I didn't want this to be some cosmic fate thing. And now here we are anyway. What do we do? I asked. He looked at me. Do you think I started dating you because you reminded me of Rebecca? Do you? No, he said firmly. You're nothing like Rebecca. She was quiet and analytical and loved the outdoors. You're creative and loud and hate camping. I didn't fall for you because of her. I fell for you because you're you. But did you fall for me because I was Jen's best friend? I asked quietly. Because some part of you felt connected to her? I don't all.